Well, another team has been in dust. This is Sports Hour. Well, we are finishing up with week 7. We're going to week 8 next. Actually, it might be the other way around. I think we actually in week. We are currently moving into week 8. We finished up week 7, and we have another team that has lost. So let's take a look at what happened this last week. Last week, we had some pretty one-sided games, and we had some games that were ridiculously close. Unfortunately, two of these teams did have to lose this week. One was kind of forced, and the other one was not so much forced. But Warriors and Falcons faced it off. They were both undefeated prior to this, and the Warriors did win by 1 point. So that was one of those games that ended up being in favor of the Warriors. Falcons fall 1 game. So it was kind of sad, but it was going to happen sooner or later in this case. At that time, I think didn't no other teams do it. No, so there are still 4 undefeated teams currently in the league. There's, however, only 1 left in the NBL, and the ABL still has 3 undefeated teams at this given time. That might change going into this next week, but taking a look at who are the top teams currently. The Panthers still have number 1 in offense. Dogs are followed up by number 2. Falcons are at number 4 right now, and the Stars are number 3. All those teams still have a pretty big standing point to go off of right now. Now, the teams that have the best defensively, well, number 1 is going to be, find number 1 here. Number 2 is the Werewolves. Not really surprised they've been doing pretty well. I think number 1 is, and then number 3 is the Lions. They've actually been doing pretty well when it comes to the fact of making sure they don't do a lot. The Dragons are currently number 1 when it comes to it. They've only allowed, they have scored 665 and only allowed 449 points at this time. Now, the best team is still by far the Carolina Panthers. I'm sorry. There's the Panthers. They're the team out there that have the most points score-wise, and they are the number 1. Now, number 1 for defensively is the Dragons. They have allowed 449 points at this point in time, and that's a pretty big. Yes, there's still several teams that are down there and haven't won a game yet. There's two teams now that have not have not won a game yet. Both the Supermen and the Lightning have not won any games. I believe these two teams will face each other though later in the season, so I don't think they're both going to be undefeated forever or just completely defeated, whichever that works off of that. Working to Loic 7, there's still some pretty good games on it. The Cardinals were defeated, completely defeated prior to this, and now the Supermen they were able to beat the Supermen. Now, going into this is going to be an interesting week, and there are some really close games. By the way, this is not completely accurate. For the actual points, it's pretty close. These two are just maybe switched. That's all. So we get to week 4. And this is week 8. Week 8 is going to be a much closer week than last week was. I mean, some of these teams were just way one-sided. I mean, looking at Panthers Ravens, that game wasn't even close. The Ravens only scored 38 points. Panthers scored way more than that. And there were some games that were really one-sided too, like for the Kings and the Werewolves. One that was one-sided. The closest game was the Dragons and the Jets. Actually, I think the Dragons and the Jets. I might have that one wrong. No, I have it right. Dragons fell this week, so that's what happened for that one. So they're no longer undefeated. We get to go ahead and talk about the next week's teams. They're sending me your predictions off of that. Give me a second. Alright, after the update for all of this, there is a lot of pretty close games in this week. In my opinion, they're all going to be pretty close. There is a few games that I will say that are probably not going to be close. Kings and Leland Cats. Leland Cats are going to demolish the Kings. They just don't have a chance at that point unless the Cats win this game. The Dogs should absolutely demolish the Supermen. The Dogs are way better than Supermen by a long shot. I don't think there's a chance the Dogs can win this game. To lose this game, sorry, because there's too much. Packers and Falcons is going to be tough. And I could see this game going either way. I think, looking on how the Packers scored last week, I don't even see the Packers. Packers did last week. They're just not going to do well this week at all. Unfortunately, I just don't think they're going to be able to handle the Falcons. The Falcons only lost by 1, so it's going to come down to it being the Packers are not going to win this game. And the Lightning and Indian, the Lightning were supposed to do really well this season. They're just falling apart. There is no way the Indians lose this game. Indians are going to win this game. Fox and UNC. This is going to be a tough one. 11 o'clock on Monday. This is probably the toughest game to pick because of the context here. I'm going to go with UNC winning this game. Both these teams are going to be really strong and really close game, and I wouldn't be surprised if this game goes to overtime or really close to overtime. It is going to be a tough game, though, in the end. Angels and Warriors should not be even close. Warriors should absolutely demolish the Angels. Angels put up a good fight, but it's not going to make a difference in that case. For it, we got the Bulldogs and the Bears. The Bulldogs are favored by 35, but everyone's picking the Bears in this game. Maybe they don't think it's going to be going out well. I'm picking the Bulldogs to win this game. I don't think, even though the Bears have had one really lucky week, the two teams that the Bulldogs have beaten make it easier. Bulldogs lost to Foxes. They lost to Falcons. They lost to Dogs. They lost to the Warriors. They beat the Hawks. Not really sad. Not surprising in that game. And they've beaten the Saints. While these teams are not particularly difficult per se, I have to say I don't think it's gonna be the Bears that win this game. Maybe Bears get lucky, but I don't think they're going to. We got the Chargers and the Panthers. Panthers should win this game, no problem. Although I could see this game being a game the Chargers just take out and take advantage of, and making the Chargers actually win this game. But I don't think they're going to get that lucky against the Panthers. The Eighth and the Dragons. Aiden had a lucky win against the team they played last week. They played against the Bears last week, where the Bears won. I looked at the wrong team. I'm looking at the wrong team. Alright. The Dragons had a really bad week last week. And it's kind of sad to say the Dragons are no longer defeated, but they actually did really well in that game. And I just don't think there's a chance, to put it this way, I'm going to put the Panthers there, that the Athens are going to be able to beat the Dragons. Dragons win that game. The game of the week, we'll come back to Werewolves and Jets. Werewolves are going to demolish the Jets. Cardinals Beagles shouldn't be a problem. The Beagles should win that game. Looking at the Giants, the Jets, and the Bobcats, I'm going to pick the Bobcats to win this week. I think the Giants are actually still a really good team, but they're probably have had some problems recently, and it's not going on with them. Speaking of which, I think there are still suspensions that will be going down one this week. Andrew Green was benched. Yeah, see, the Indians are going to have a problem. I don't know why I picked the Indians to win. Because all these teams are suspended. These players are all suspended. Who did they beat last week? Oh, they got demolished last week. No, I'm taking it back. Put the Indians on a loss there. The Lightning are going to win that game. Indians have too many players suspended right now. Looking back here and looking at the Browns and ours. It's gonna be a tough game. I'm giving the Browns the win here, but I can see that game going either way. Lions and Saints. Lions should win that game without problem. Lions are just much better than the Saints are. Tigers and Colts. Yeah, it's tough for me to pick either one of these teams because both of these teams are actually still really good, but it's going to come down to really who has the better defense in the end. Tigers have a 24th defense. The Colts have the 4th best defense. And I'm thinking, honestly, the Colts are going to do better in this game overall. Hawks and Dolphins, that game is going to be very hard to even predict. I'm picking the Dolphins here. I think the Hawks are not going to show up enough to be able to get the hits. Speaking of which, I think they have his player suspended. No, they don't have players suspended. They have a player injured. But honestly, and that's when they're better players. It's tough for me. I actually did change it. The player is injured right now. They have at least 2 games we're not going to be playing. I don't know that's going to change much though about how the Hawks stand. I'm going to pick the Dolphins winning this game. I might be wrong about that game. Ravens and Tex. Ravens has just struggled. They struggle like crazy against the Panthers. But the Panthers are the number 1 offense, and they just weren't there. If you look at the Ravens overall, Ravens are just not good. They have I think the 2nd worst defense overall, and they don't have a very good offense either. Versus the team they're playing against, which is the Tex, who have a better offense and a better defense. Maybe not a nail biter in this game, but I am going to pick the Tex to win this game. Stars and Legends should be a blowout. Stars win this game. And Lynx and Pirates. That's a tough one. Both these games could end up winning that game without much of a problem. But looking at the Lynx right now, Lynx have one of the better defenses, and they have about an average offense. Versus the Pirates, let's see here. Pirates are kind of really have actually a better defense, but a really bad offense. It's going to be, for me, the Lynx that win this game. Back to the game of the week. Oh, this is a tough one. I even know which one to say here because both of these games could do really well. Knights have lost 2 games so far. I think they're 2 losses, though. Let's take a look. The Knights, I think they've lost 2 games. It's more recent than the Knights have lost. Yeah, Knights lost the Panthers. And I think they lost. They have a tie too, but who did they lose against? Oh well, yeah, they lost against the Warriors. That wasn't that against both the teams they've played against have been a whole pretty tough. and it's not going to be easy. Huskies have lost against a few teams as well. Let's take a look at the Huskies. They've lost against 3 teams. They did not lose. They won week 1. They won week 2. They lost week 3 in overtime. So that wasn't that much of a big of a game. They lost to the Stars in overtime, so that one was also a pretty close game. And they lost against the Dogs, pretty badly against the Dogs. So, to be honest, this is gonna be a tough one. I'm going to pick the Knights to win this game. However, the Huskies could easily win that game. This game going into it. So honestly, I can see this game going either way. Those are my picks for this week. Take a look here about the suspensions. No, there has been only one player benched and 3 players that have been suspended. Andrew Miller's had a bad attitude. I think he's actually no longer benched. Confirm that. Okay, so he's no longer benched. Daniel Washington should be back. Now, is Donald Washington back? Okay, so he's not. He is. He got one. It will be out this next game, but he'll be back at the end of this. They'll be back next week for that team. He's suspended for one more game. That is it for Sports Hour. There's not much else to talk about here, so I will see you guys in the next video where we'll get to week number... What week? Week number 9, where we got some even bigger battles. I will see you guys in week 9.